Hi everyone. Happy to be here in Product School. My name is Ariel Lemelson. I'm the head of cyber detection and response at Booking.com, and I'm a group product manager at Booking.com. The topic I'm going to be speaking today is called the bilingual product manager, technology and business. So I'm not speaking about bilingual in terms of two languages like French and Chinese. I am speaking about the language of technology and the language of business. A little bit about myself. So I come from security product management, basically building, designing security products from the vendor side. I worked at companies such as ObserveIT, which comes from the area of insider threat management, which now is a Proofpoint company, and from Dell EMC, Cybersecurity Innovation Group. Also, I've been, in my background, a security consultant for Ernst & Young. I am very passionate about security, as you can imagine from my background. I love innovative technologies, and I love leveraging them in order to solve problems and provide value to the customers. So let's start from an agenda. A little bit, we'll start from scoping the area we're speaking about. So we're going to be speaking about this bilingual product manager. So first, what is the bilingual product manager, and for what companies and what product is it applicable? It's not for all the industry. Then I'll explain why. What is the value in having or being a bilingual product manager? I'll be claiming that this bilingual product manager needs to have tech knowledge. So I'll have later to drill down a little bit about different categories of tech knowledge. What do I mean when I say tech knowledge? And then I will go a little bit to give some tips around what it means and how to think as a bilingual PM. Okay, so first part would be a little bit dividing the world into vendors and customers. So vendor is a company basically that creates products. This company creates products that are being sold or given to customers. Customers could be myself and taking an Instagram application and uploading pictures to it, using it. It could be also a company buying products, buying a cybersecurity product. So let's us make a clear scope that all this B2B, the second one, business to business, is only in scope. All the other options would be out of scope for this presentation. And not just any B2B, but B2B products where they are tech heavy, meaning it's complex products that are rich in technology and are in domains area such as IT, security, and networks. The customer in those places usually is an IT person and a security person, a subject matter expert. This person is not just someone who wants to just use Instagram application to upload a picture. He actually wants to use the technology that your product is providing to him in order for him or them to give or provide this service, like security services or IT services, to their own organization. So they actually use the technology provided by your product in order to deliver, in turn, a service to their organization. We can basically say the technology is the product or is a main part of the product in those cases. So many times you will see that the PM function would be separated in those companies. So let's imagine again a vendor that creates products, company that creates products, and those products are tech heavy and are B2B, let's say a cybersecurity product or an IT product. And you will see many times that are two PMs. One, it would be an outbound PM, which speaks the language of the business, and he meets customers, he meets marketing people, sales engineers, he lives among them. And there is another product manager, an inbound product manager, which lives with the engineering teams. He attends the daily stand-ups, the pre-planning, the planning, the retros. He would be grooming the backlog. He would be writing user stories. the connection between these two entities, the inbound and the outbound product manager, is often problematic. In what sense? That, I mean, you need to have perfect sync and so much alignment, and they don't always speak the same language. It's very hard to have this communication to be perfect. By the way, about terminology, so you will see that many times it's called inbound versus outbound product management. Sometimes it would be technology product manager versus just a product manager. It could be a product owner versus a product manager. By the way, sometimes you also see there's only one. There's only an outbound product manager, and there is no technical product manager. But who does the internal part? So just the engineering by themselves, they fund their own work, kind of an engineering-led product. So my question is, should they be two different functions, or it should be only one? So what I come in here to say is that there should be in these kind of in-scope products, a single PM function. This PM function needs to be all in one, basically, to achieve the best results. So this is the bilingual PM. Bilingual, as he can speak both technology language and also customer, business, and market language. This is a person that can be on both areas. And I claim that it gives better results than a combination between an inbound and an outbound PM. So now I said this, so now let's get a little bit to the value of it. Why does a PM needs to be technical at all? Why do we need a bilingual PM? So first thing, it would be to design and deliver great technical products. So in order to deliver great technical products, you really need to understand the customer requirements. You need to understand the market requirements. You need to be able to see the customer point of view, their pain points, the real problems. And if you can imagine, this is an IT or security complex product. If you don't really understand the details, you are not getting to the bottom of the customer need. And once you have understood the technical details and the requirements, you should be able to envision how it would look technically, the solution. So you understand the problem well, now you want to understand the solution well and to design it the right way. Basically, if you are the bilingual PM, this PM who speaks the market language and the customer language, and you speak the engineering language and can work with them and do both sides of this coin, you can bring customer-centric thinking into the technical design of the product. You can basically be able to make and to facilitate technical trade-offs. I don't know how many of the audience today basically work very closely in the vendor side with engineering, but there are an endless amount of trade-offs that have to be made. It can be implemented, everything basically can be implemented in a dozen different ways, and there are many, many small nuances that you can change and would have implications on the end result. So these things like trade-offs around quality and speed and usability and functionality and cost are all things that need very much painful sometimes decisions to make. So let's stop to give an example here. So let's imagine there's now a outbound product manager in a company without a bilingual PM. This outbound product manager comes and speaks with customers and understand they need some feature or they are interested in some feature, and he kind of commits to deliver this feature. So now, let's say it could be, by the way, in order to enable a big sale, promise a feature. This is very common practice. Now, the speed becomes very important because there is a commitment to deliver certain feature. So we have functionality committed and the speed committed. But now engineering will be pressed to deliver that. So regardless of the cost, if it makes sense in terms of the product planning and how it's built, in terms of the architecture, would it be something that then be scalable, or will have a lot of bugs? Maybe it's something that if you would cut or make it partially, would be much easier to deliver and would give a better cost-benefit analysis. So if you have a bilingual PM there, this bilingual PM already knows how it's built and knows these trade-offs and knows how a new feature can be implemented and how it will affect the architecture of the product and the future of the product. So this bilingual PM could give the right commitment and then be accountable also to be able to deliver this commitment because he knows already these trade-offs. So you need someone who can understand and empathize the long-term interest of the product and basically balance it with the short-term interest of sales and other people who want something now from the product. So things like scalable architecture and avoiding tech debt can only be done this way, because otherwise you will have, in many organizations, you will see engineering that is interesting to do things the right way, very taking the highway, building things with a lot of infrastructure and just then delivering the value, which can be an extreme sometimes and would be not cost efficient to do that. On the other side, you will see people who just want, I mean, when I say people, I mean it's coming from sales, right? That want to deliver quick and dirty features just to get a deal done. And once the deal is done, they don't have to deal now with delivery. They don't really care. So you need someone who can really balance that. And the outbound PM is not that person because he's not living also in the product. So another value would be saving long decision-making loops. I don't know how many of you were involved in these decision loops, but there are so much complexity when you need to deliver something, and engineering people may have a lot of options to implement that all of them have eventually implications on the value of the feature. So if you have someone who can see the entire picture and can connect the dots from the small engineering trade-offs, ask the right questions, and understand all the link until it goes to the what, to the feature, to the why, the value of this feature, and can see the big picture and can see the trade-offs, he can make short decisions instead of making a meeting and then another meeting and another meeting with other stakeholders, and then other features will get into the mix. So this is very much time saving and give confidence to engineering, because engineering can rely on you and can come for quick decision making on things that need to be done. I mean, if you look at a developer that is now giving an estimation to do certain small part of the feature in 3 full days, and he sees an option to do some other option in 2 hours, but he says it will be cutting certain corner, it has some implication, you could be there to decide for him. I mean, it's together with his team leader or with the engineering manager. Understanding the tech team decisions and be able to challenge them. So if you understand the risks and you understand the implications, you can challenge decisions to overinvest or to underinvest, or to take way A or way B. You can guide the technical teams and make sure they implement the way you mean, the way the customer wants, the way that gives the best value in terms of cost-benefit analysis. I think this is the part that I would say now is a controversial part. You don't own the how, right? But you are involved in it very much. The how is interconnected both ways with the what and with the why. So you cannot cut this cord. So if you say, I'm a product manager, I only own the what, the functionality of the product, but I do not own the how. I do not deal with the how. I don't care. That's technical. That's your work, engineers. So you're losing a lot because you basically cannot deliver the same feature without being in the how. You have to be a main inputter to the how, because the how in this kind of complex product is always directly impacts the what. And you change how the way you implement something, you get another result. As simple as that. And one of the reasons for that is because in this kind of product where your customers, which are technical customers, the non-functional requirements such as scale and security and other things are functional requirements. And this is why the traditional division between how and what is a little bit irrelevant here. Until now, we focused on the value in terms of facing the engineering. Now let's face a little bit the customer. So first, I would say my assumption here that was true for the places I worked, that a PM needs to be able to participate and in meetings and be able to have kind of a personal relationship with customers. So again, remember, it's B2B. the amount of customers could be a few hundreds. You're not speaking about 200 million people downloading your app. You're speaking about security managers that bought your cybersecurity detection system, and you can pick up a few of your best customers that are willing to be in your customer advisory board, and you can create direct relationship with them. And you can then, every time you think about new features, you can validate with them, you can speak with them, you can get their feedback. The more, the merrier. More customers and more times. After you release a feature, before you release, when you just think about something. So these customers are technical people again, and these customers care about the technical details of the product. It's not potato for them. They care how it works and how it delivers the value, not just a checklist of features. And they expect from you to know what you're talking about and understand the nuance. So if you're just basically coming and trying to say the things from the presentation, if you are only a PowerPoint deck presentation, they will feel this. You will not gain their trust. So if you want to gain their trust, you need to understand their mentality and their pain points. You need to understand the implementation. You need to understand the details, technical details, and explain them, basically the most complicated and the core of your product, in simple, abstract words. You need to really understand it well to do that. So what I'm saying is avoid technical marketing fluff. A very common disease with product managers are being only a slide product manager. So we're closer to be a marketing guy, which is a very important job. Marketing are highly appreciated, and you can be a product marketing manager, PMM, which deals with positioning of your product and other things in the market. But if you want to be a product manager in these kind of companies, you need to know the technical things. And if you don't know it, your customer probably, and I've seen it directly, that customers appreciate very, very much technical knowledge. And if your customer feels that you are giving marketing fluff, and I know because now I'm also on the customer side in Booking.com, engaging security vendors, you lose their trust. So they're fed up with marketing fluff. Don't go there. So now another thing is to be able to explain the how the product tackles the problem and how it delivers the value. So if you can explain it, because they care about the how. So for example, it could be product architecture. Often it matters to the customers. Different communication channels between different components. So if you have the agent speaking to the server, speaking to something, and this is encrypted, this is unencrypted, where is implemented, which part of the product, and I will repeat this word later, logical boxes. So you have to understand all the logical boxes of your product, which part is doing logical modules, it could be, but they speak with each other, the communication between each other, and the customer cares about it. A technical customer is a professional, an IT or security professional, just like you, and he cares about it, and it does matter. So now we said, okay, you need technical knowledge. I was preaching about it, right? So what is technical knowledge? What kind of technical knowledge is required for a bilingual PM? So let's start from dividing the technical knowledge into 3 categories that could be relevant here. I'm not saying you need all of them. You're just starting by saying these are the categories. So one would be product technical functionality, the what of the product. So if it's cybersecurity detection software, it would be the detection features, right? Knowing about this area, a little bit at least. Second type would be software development knowledge, knowing coding or understanding code. The third part would be deeper knowledge about the how of the product, understanding the how, the product architecture. I said all these logical boxes and how they interconnect and what each one of them does, and the input and the output of each of these modules, and specific domain knowledge to be in specific areas of cybersecurity, networking, IT, etc. So let's start from the first one, knowledge about the what. So the technical functions of the product that serves the capabilities, the limitations. I think this is something that is not controversial. It's a consensus. Everyone thinks that a product manager should at least know what his product does. So it's a must-have, but it's also something that it's very common to have. The second one is coding, writing code, software development. So it's a common question I get when I speak about this topic is, should I be a developer? Should I come from development, software development background in order to be a bilingual PM? So the clear answer here is no, you don't need that. We are not referring to software development knowledge. I even saw cases where it could be a little bit disturbing because it distracts from the actual technical knowledge that you need to have. So again, I'm coming back again to the example of these, not example, but about this metaphor of the logical boxes that the product is divided to. So, you can, inside each component, you have logical boxes that they get certain input and certain output, and they perform a specific function. You don't need to know how to write the code inside each of these functions. You need just to understand that it's there. What are the pros and the cons? What are the implications? You don't need code for that. The third one, which is the most important part and which is the point I was getting into, is more controversial, but I think it's the important type. In this kind of product, you need knowledge about the how. The how is deeply connected to the what. So if you want to achieve certain what, and we said the what is, in these cases, are not just functional requirements, also non-functional requirements like scale, for example, or being future-proof, or stability, or the bugginess of certain part of the product. You need to understand the how. Because if you do something implemented in certain part of the product, implement something in the agent and not in the server, whenever it's applicable in certain product. Implement something encrypted versus unencrypted. There are a lot of implications for what you choose, and the how cannot be disconnected. So you need knowledge about it, right? So this kind of knowledge about the architecture of the product and how it serves the function, it relates to all the non-functional requirements such as scale, stability, future-proof, and many, many others. So to add on that, it also means domain knowledge. So if it's an IT product in certain area, you should know about this part of IT. Same for networks or cybersecurity. So basically, this is what required. This kind of technical knowledge that I'll repeat is basically knowing how the product implements its functionalities and understand the architecture of the product and the non-functional requirements. So if you know all of this, together with domain knowledge about the domain in which your product works, for example, in my case, it was always was cybersecurity. So you have the knowledge needed to be a bilingual PM. So now a few tips and thoughts about bilingual PM. So first, what would be the right background for a bilingual PM? So people will come and ask, okay, I don't have this background. What can I do to become a bilingual PM? So I say you don't need to come necessarily be trained in cybersecurity or in IT or be a software architect. You can basically, you can do something like learn. So you can first decide that you have the confidence and the motivation to do it, and you should get there. And if you decide that you're going to get there and you're an intelligent person, you will get there. You don't have to be scared to learn technology. It is your business. Technology is the product. So how do you do this? You engage always technical discussions. You look at diagrams, architectural diagrams. You look at specs. You read online. You ask explanations from the developers, from the engineers, from the architects, and try to get into the bits and bytes. You are not anymore scared. You deep dive. You get to the bottom of the differences between the different implementation options. And I think the most important thing is to ask the right questions. If you ask the right questions, you will get the right answers. And you start learning. Why do we do this option A to implement and not option B? You can challenge that. You can try to ask the basics. Another area of concern sometimes would be keeping the product manager business focused. So people would be concerned, right? If my product managers, if I'm the manager and if I'm the PM, if I dive into technology, I may basically lose my business context. So my answer is no, or you should not. Technology basically here is just the language. is a language, I mean, on a metaphoric base in which you express the business value. So you're not becoming an engineer. You're still a product manager. You try to bring business value through that product. But this is the main tool you have, the main language. You need to keep the why, the what, and the how connected on one string, always connected. You cannot cut this string. So you should be able, and this goes to the next point. I think the next point would be the main takeaway here. One of the main takeaways even of the entire session, that you should have the ability to do what I call an extreme zoom in and zoom out. So basically, if on metaphor, it would be like looking in a microscope, seeing a bacteria, and then be able to connect it to looking in a telescope on the stars that are thousands of year lights away from here. If you can connect those, you can do this extreme zoom in and out. And without the metaphor, it would be speaking with a customer about a feature request and immediately be able to see one or more implementation options and understand the implications and understand which of these logical boxes of your product will have to change or which additional ones will have to be added, and then understand the pros and the cons. And if you can do all of that, connect the market and the competition landscape or whatever your competitors are doing and what you need to deliver to the bits and bytes. And on the other hand, when you're speaking or listening in a planning meeting with the developers and they're trying to think how to implement and bring a couple of options, and you can immediately see and translate it into business impact and how the customer will look at it from his perspective, from their perspective. So if you can do that, so you have the ability to extreme zoom in and out, and then you always keep in mind the business value. It's not that you replace the business value and looking at the customer side with looking at technology, but you add it, and you are basically expressing in a different language the same idea. The idea is business value for your customers and gaining the market. And the way to do it, or another language you do it in, is technology. So you should be living the technology always with eyes on the business context. You are not losing the business context for a moment, because if you're doing that, you're not doing your job well. One of my last slides here would be saying another important part of it is to be engineering friendly. So it could be, of course, on the personal side. I really believe in collaboration and win-win situation. This is a clear opportunity for that. But if we put this aside, engineering has a different language. So I not actually meaning like, yeah, we all may speak English, but they do have a different language. So often the attempt of management or marketing or sales to influence and try to excite engineering with customer stories, but or with all kind of, let's say, sales information, but they do not speak in the same language. I see it passes to the engineers as marketing fluff or sales fluff. So they come and say all kind of numbers and slogans, and they don't care about it. Mostly, they want to hear something in their language. And you, as a bilingual PM, you are that person who basically can translate into their language the business value and basically always be influencing and motivating the engineering teams. So basically, you have to explain in a very practical and pragmatic way, why do we do what we do? You should be able to make them excited about sharing customer stories and perspective, but again, in a very practical and direct way that they think. They don't connect, they don't relate to these kind of marketing slides, PowerPoint slides language. So you need to help them know the difference between things they do and how it impacts the business value and the customer's point of view. And by the way, this is an important thing to say. It's not because engineers are less smart. It might be even the other way around. So they're just more practical. They are very, very practical, and they do not see all these kind of business language as something they relate to. It's not their language. Another thing would be bring the customer empathy and this passionate vision that you have for the product that you get from the market, from the customers, into the product design. Basically, you are trying to infect the engineering with your excitement. So you're excited to solve a problem for a customer, or many problems to many customers, or to gain market share. You're excited about those things, and you understand what this feature you're trying to brings to the table. So in order to actually have it done and get more from engineering, you should basically infect them with this passion. And you can only do it by speaking their language and explaining them the value. And so this is something that can be done only if you know their language. And if you are not a bilingual PM, you will have a hard time, because the inbound PM not necessarily is infected with this, and the outbound PM doesn't know this language. So it's another value of having the same person doing both. So let's summarize. We said, right, that in tech-heavy products, where tech is the product, you need a single PM that speaks both languages, tech and business. The how is very much connected to the what, and you cannot cut the string. Basically, it's connected on one line, the how, the what, and the why. And if you try to disconnect, you lose a lot in that disconnection. So the value of having these bilingual PM that does both would be around having customer-centric and market-centric design and prioritization, and very, very good and quick trade-offs. You'll understand your customers and gain their trust because you speak their language and you can reflect their preferences and also communicate about the product and the engineering to them. You can express the business value in the tech language and collaborate with the tech teams in complex decisions, and also infect them with your passion and your vision about the product. Okay, thank you very much for being with me today. I enjoyed it. Thank you also to Product School for facilitating this. If you have any questions or you want to continue in offline discussion, I would be happy. You can contact me in my LinkedIn page or in my email. So thank you very much for being with me today, and have a good day.